chat it up because it's back to school.
Do you want any of these left over to put in front office?
Sure, absolutely, because I think I was supposed to grab a few,
Okay.
but we can hand them to me and I can drop them
You
in.
can keep them all. Then I'll take them home. I'll take a couple and go some guys come in. People come in late.
So I was trying to call the order right there. And I was sitting down on my phone.
Oh, that was as you walked
I
in.
know.
What is it looking like?
Huh? See, sign in.
Oh, voting.
So only voting members, only paid members can vote. School, safety, and Stephanie, can we get started or are we waiting? Here it is. Okay.
Okay. You up? So that's my cue.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Thank you for coming out on this fine October evening. I think the temperature dropped a little bit outside. Did it? I wish he would make up his mind if it's going to change, is it going to stay, what is it going to do? Do I turn the heat on? Do I turn it off? Do I wear the sweater? Do I wear the tights? Like, what do I wear? So thank you all for coming. I am Dr. Johnson. I am the principal. This is our second PTO meeting, and we're very excited about all of the things that we have going on. Like I shared my testimony, my daughter is now at NYU, and me being involved in her parent organization throughout, but I was a class parent her last year, was very meaningful for me and her. So now when I have those mom guilt moments, I'm like, well, at least I did my duty last year. So thank you all for coming out. Tonight we are filming. Ms. Metz, our PR liaison, is filming so that we can share our PTO meetings on our YouTube channel for families who cannot come out. But we still want you to come out. So don't look at it as an option, like, oh, I can just log. No, we still want you to come. It's like face-to-face interaction. So I would like to introduce the staff we have with us this evening. We have Ms. Kalekowicz, our reading recovery teacher, Ms. Watrous, IA, Mr. Brooks, first grade and first grade team leader, Ms. Ryon, parent liaison, Ms. Metz, she is our instructional resource teacher and PR liaison, wears many hats. Ms. Barnett's our vice principal. Ms. Rodriguez is our learning resource teacher, also gifted education coordinator. And Mr. Miser is our school and safety admin representative.
Perfect.
Did I get it right? Okay, there we go. Woo, I had to write those down. So we're glad that you are here. We have a full agenda. But my goal is every meeting to provide some form of education of what we're doing here in the school, so parents are aware. October, there's so much going on: fall, fun, breast cancer awareness, bullying prevention, Unity Day, anything you name. Those are all the things that we are celebrating. We have Spirit Week next week. We have a book fair. But bullying prevention is something that we like to educate our families on how we respond to it, but also defining what it is and what it is not. Ms. Marzoff, our school counselor, is conducting lessons in every class on how to determine what bullying is and what conflict is, and to teach your child how to respond to conflict in a way that he or she can stand up for themselves and say what their boundaries are and what they like and what they don't like. So if your child comes home and says, well, this happened, we can say, well, tell me about the conflict, as opposed to, oh, you're being bullied. Understand the conflict, and we can understand the correct way to respond to that conflict. Because bullying is just all over the media, right? And everybody's afraid of it. But we have to really break it down and understand what it is, and that's why we're educating our scholars, and I want to educate you so that we can have a common response to what it is and what it is not. All right? So I guess it's my time to turn it over to Ms. Rodriguez.
No, Mr. Miser.
He's first? Yes, Mr. Miser, and I do look at that. That was my segue into Mr. Miser. And then after Mr. Miser, it will be Ms. Rodriguez, so that you can have an understanding about the gifted program offering that we have for scholars who qualify for that. All right, thank you very much. Thanks for coming out.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
I guess I keep my glasses on around to read what I need to put up here and share with you guys. So you guys all got a little pamphlet. That's something that's been put together. It just kind of gives an overview of what goes on in our office, some highlights and some things to keep in mind as far as what we do, because everyone wants to know kind of what we do. But as far as what's in our office, the main things that we're doing is we have a safety and security section, and that's what I'm part of and Jason's part of. We have an internal affairs section. We have 2 retired police officers that do internal affairs investigations. That's where they investigate if there's any teacher or staff wrongdoings, okay? We have the fingerprinting and badging, so we have a lady just designated for that. So she badges everybody. When they lose their badges, she gets new badges for them and fingerprints all the new staff coming through. And that's also for substitutes and people like that, you know, volunteers if we have to as well. We have my role, the school safety administrator and residency investigator, and other hats I keep getting put on top of me. So, you know, tomorrow there might be something else. But I am kind of because I've had 25 years in the school system, I've kind of became that go-between for Jason, who is a retired police officer, for the safety and security part of this. He's got a wealth of knowledge from the police side of things, but sometimes how to push that out into the schools, he needs a little finesse. So my job is to kind of help him finesse those things a little bit, and he'll openly tell you that. And we're looking for future expansion to see what we're going to need, because with school safety, it's just an ever ongoing, expanding topic throughout the country. So we have that. Safety strategy, most of our programs, most of our strategies are based on scalable approaches. In other words, everything's built around like a fire drill, right? So there's no one freaks out. We have to do a special drill just for a bomb threat or a special drill just for a tornado. Everything's kind of built all around a fire drill. So the kids don't get scared, the staff doesn't get scared, and everyone can kind of be all on the same page. Here are some of the things Jason wanted me to go over with you guys. Things that we have done, say, throughout the past year. The staff in here has already heard this in a much more in-depth presentation when we came to the schools to do this, but this is a little bit different for the parents. But one of the things that we're doing is background checks for volunteers. All right, you just can't sign up and be a volunteer here at the school. And I'll sit in Jason's office and he'll, nope, not this one. Nope, this one was arrested for murder. No, they can't. I'm serious. And they cannot be on a field trip. They can't be on the school grounds for, you know, even the thing, here, come read to the kids, you know, carpet time or whatever. So they can't do those things, right? So those are the things that we're doing. We're scanning all volunteers, so we're not putting our kids in a situation where somebody has a past experience that they shouldn't be with our kids. And we're also doing it for staff. So now we are, we're doing revolving background checks on staff. So this year we're doing 1/3 of the staff. Next year we're doing another 1/3 of the staff. And the following year we'll have the last third. So we'll have background check the entire staff. Because what's happened is when I was hired 25 years ago, I got my fingerprints taken. But if I didn't commit a crime in Maryland, and I was down at Dewey Beach in Delaware, and I did something down there, got a drunken disorderly, which I'd never gotten, a drunken disorderly, the system would never know. See what I'm saying? Because it was out of state. But if it happened in state, then that would be a flag, or if I had self-reported it, then they would know. But now by doing the background checks, things pop up. All right, so we're kind of weeding out some of the things that are kind of hidden in some people's closets, which is good as well. So we also have a policy that the staff has 5 days to self-report if they do something that's a reportable offense type of thing. We're not talking about running the red light cameras, right, or the speed cameras that are everywhere on Route 5 and 301, but we're talking about major events, assaults, drunken disorderlies, unprofessional type of behavior, okay? So that's kind of going to help clean up anything that we may have lingering. And that's really been put in place because of the incident that happened a couple years ago, okay? And down in La Plata and over here at Benjamin Stoddard, the person who was coaching and teaching our kids. Our office has received over $1 million in state grant money, and we put about $600K of that this year. We just got some more grants coming in. Jason is constantly writing grants, and we're putting that money towards a lot of safety features. We have a lot of these guided vestibules, so you just can't walk straight into the school. Some of our schools still don't have doors, so we're putting doors on classrooms, like the open space classrooms. McDonough is just now getting some doors, all right? La Plata has gotten doors, but now we're doing doors where we can kind of secure La Plata if we needed to in the upstairs. We've put new locks and keys, or at Westlake. That was a $90,000 project to rekey the school. All right, so these new safety initiatives cost a lot of money, but the lock system at Westlake, although it's a newer high school, it's 25 years old, and a lot of keys have been lost, a lot of keys and locks have been replaced, and they weren't all working correctly, so we just had to go through and rekey the whole school and put in new locks. We have created a single location family reunification site, and that's going to be at the College of Southern Maryland. So if something bad were to happen, you know, and it could be the shooter, right? Could be a shooter that comes into the school, but more likely it could be the kids come to school and the boiler, the air conditioning unit catches on fire or something, and we have smoke going down the halls and we can't come back into JP Ryon. What are we going to do with the kids? And because that's also going to happen on a rainy Monday, or it's going to happen on a blowing, freezing 32-degree day. So what are we going to do? They can't stand outside, right?
It's not going to happen.
No, it will. That's when it happens. It's not going to happen on a gorgeous day like
claiming
today.
it.
Not the 75-degree, picture-perfect days like we've been having. So where do the kids want to go? How many kids you have here?
The last count I had was 670.
So you have 670 students. How many parents are coming to pick up all those kids when the bad day happens?
On this one
Including
way
their
in.
grandparents and their aunts and uncles.
Everybody's going to have a kid here, including their grandparents, their aunts, their uncles, their brothers, their nieces, their nephews. Everyone's coming to pick up one kid. So you have 670 students. You're going to have, you know, probably 3,000 people coming to pick up, you know, 700 students. And on a one-way street coming in and out, right? Not practical. So what we have set up is a family reunification site at the College of Southern Maryland. That happens. Jason has a MOUs with a lot of companies in the county. The busing companies will come, they'll send buses here. We know how many buses we need for 670 students and plus staff, and everyone's going to go to the College of Southern Maryland. All right, and that's where you pick up your children. And what we have set up is staff, CCPS staff will come in the road that goes towards on Hawthorne Road, and parents will come in the top side there off of 301. Does that make sense? And then the police will be there, so you can only go in one way, and the staff can only go in one way. So they're not merging, and the campus would shut down, and we would have total access for that campus. Okay, so it's a way for them to work with us, and us work with them as a way to, you know, help reunify you guys with your kiddos when the bad day doesn't have to be a shooter, right? We don't want to be a shooter, but the bad day very likely could be the kitchen catches on fire, the pipes freeze coming back from Christmas break, and there's water flooding down the hallways. Those are normal things that could happen, unfortunately. And that might be things that we need to then have to reunify at an alternate location. We talked about the guided vestibules being installed. McDonough and La Plata, we've installed doors in the upstairs. It's going to take 40 doors to be able to shut down McDonough High School upstairs so it can be totally secure if we need to shut it down. It only took 10 doors to do La Plata High School, the way it was set up. So it's a whole different makeup. So that's a process that's taken us a little bit more time. Behavioral threat assessment teams, this is a state initiative that's getting pushed down. And basically what we're saying right now is we're taking nothing for granted. You know, a kid draws a picture of a cat hanging from a tree, you know, by a string around its neck. That might be something we need to look at, right? They write in a journal entry something about wanting to kill something or do something or burn something down. We're not taking that for granted. Right there we start doing the threat assessments. There's a team in place, administrators, psychologists, counselors, and they assess, is this a behavioral threat, or is it, you know, we do a safe screening to see then where does it go from there. A lot of them get dismissed. It isn't a real threat, but some of them are. And I know about a couple weeks ago we had about 15 or 16 that actually risen to a threat assessment. Okay, so it's something that right now that's really worked out well. And then it's not just doing a threat assessment; it's then also knowing that we have to follow up with that kid down the road. Right? It's not just a one and done, oh, they didn't mean it, or they did mean it and they'll be fine. No, we still didn't do the follow-up checks to make sure that they still are fine, okay? The full integration of see something, say something, and I'll talk more about that at the very end of this. On our website, there's a link that you can click on, and you can fill out a form if you see a threat or you hear a threat. You can call and leave a message. That's how we get most of our information. Jason has worked on many threats throughout, Sunday at 10 a.m., something will come into him about a threat that showed up on Instagram or Twitter. A kid talking about shooting up the school. So, and I keep saying Jason's name because a lot of things go to him first, then it just gets trickled down because he is the head of the office. So that's where it goes, and then we work on it and solve them. The safety and advisory and school safety committees. Dr. Hill has recommended that every school, every principal have a safety advisory committee. People off the PTSO, out of every grade, students as well. Probably not at the elementary would you have the younger kids, but maybe you'd have the 4th or 5th graders on it. I've offered to come to the schools, and Jason's offered to come and do a little chat and choose with the kiddos and circle time on the carpet and talk to them about things we're doing, because the kids know a lot, and we need to listen to them. That's where I want to go. I want to go to the high schools, the middle schools for sure. Elementaries, that's a little different, but it's still it's a good visit. The Sheriff's Department, we have MOUs with the Sheriff's Department. It's pretty cool this year. So to get into our schools, our badges, there's a little card reader outside. The staff can scan, and the door is magnetically on lock, and they can walk in. Now the Sheriff's Office, every officer that's a corporal and above can do the same thing. So if there's an emergency during the day or even at night, like right now, they could scan into the door and come into the school and take care of any emergency that might be in here, okay? Then we also they have access to our cameras. Where are our cameras in here? There should be one maybe.
It's outside.
Maybe it's outside the door. So if there was an incident happening here at JP Ryan, the Sheriff's Office can tap into our cameras right here in our school and assess where the threat is through a live feed that they're watching. We used to have to tell them, or we'd have to, radio to their officers on where they need to go. Now they have access to look at our cameras and tell their officers where they need to go or what's happening in the schools. So that's pretty cool. And I always jokingly say, don't worry, they're not watching us now. It's okay. Okay, don't freak out. All right. Door numbering. We numbered all the doors, all the exit doors of the buildings. And there's a reason for that. When the first responders come, if you said, hey, out first grade team leader, right? And there's an incident down the first grade team hallway. No one knows in this room, very few of us know where that is. I don't know where that is. But if you said it's door 13, through process of elimination, we'll be able to find door 13 probably pretty quickly. All right, so, and then outside the numbers are pretty big, and inside they're kind of tiny, and they're down low. Down low in count of smoke, if there's a fire, and then people are crawling out. Outside they're bigger, and they're numbered. Number 1's always at the main office door, and then they go clockwise around the school. So it's good to know how they're numbered. It's not just randomly numbered, and not every school is numbered differently. Every school is numbered exactly the same. Front door number 1, and then left to right, all the way around, they go up in ascending order. Okay, so you might see number 1, and right beside it's number 13, but then the other side is number 2, so that's the reason it's that way. Okay. We had new state-of-the-art radios this year purchased. These are pretty cool that administrators are going to get. We don't have them all yet because it has to work out a lot of things with the kinks with the 911 services. So the administrators have always had the radios, the old analog radios. Now they're going to have like a digital radio, and they're going to have a red button on the radio that they can push. So if we're at lunch duty, the principal, the vice principal can hit the red button and the kid's having a seizure. We have a 3rd grade female student on the floor having a seizure, and they're talking right to the EMTs. Okay, as the EMTs can come right to JP Ryan, we're in the cafeteria, just stay with them. They can communicate back and forth on how to handle the situation. Or, oh, I forgot, they can switch a channel to talk to the EMTs, or they can switch a channel and talk to the police. The red button, that is a 10-second uninterrupted time at the 911 call center. So instead of having to call 911, they just hit the red button on their little radio, and they're talking directly with 911. Okay? So it gives them a quick form of communication. Window film. In a lot of our schools, probably about half of them, I'm going to say, we haven't really disclosed the number, and we're going to do the rest of them hopefully next year, depending on the grant money. I'm probably pretty sure we are. We put what's called 3M window film in front of our schools, some of our main entry doors. I think this school has it. I think I checked it out the one time when I was here. So what it is, it's like a window tinting without the tinting, if you would. So it's like we just put window films on all the front exterior windows. What happens is if someone tries to throw a chair through it or a rock through it or tries to shoot their way through the door or the window will hang in place for up to 90 seconds. So it just won't shatter and they can walk right through. Because at Sandy Hook, that's what happened. Shooter came to the door, shot through the window, and walked right into the school and then started shooting up the school. We can't guarantee you safety, but we can try to guarantee you the teacher's time and the kids' time, right, to get the kids to safety. So if the shooting happens here, the windows stay in place, they can get out the back window or back door, okay? So that's a big advancement for us. Trauma kits, we're the only school in the state to have trauma kits in our schools, as many as we do. Some other counties have maybe 2 or 3 per school. We have, this school probably got about 40 of them. And then there's 5 in the grand locations, the common locations that are always going to be there, like the main office, the gym, and the cafeteria, things like that. So what a trauma kit is, it's filled inside that kit are gauze bandages. There's gauze bandages with Vaseline. There's ACE bandages, and there's even a tourniquet that's pediatric safe for kids this age. So what it is, we call them stop the bleed kits. And the teachers all got trained on how to stop the bleed. Because what we learned is, at Virginia Tech, when the shooting happened at Virginia Tech, not one person died at Virginia Tech after the first responders got there, because they were able to stop the bleed. Okay? Everyone who died at Virginia Tech died before there was any first responders there and they bled out. So that's kind of gruesome to say, but to think about. You know, here we have staff members that are now able to help stop the bleed and save staff and kids and maybe even parent volunteers that could be on campus at that time. Okay, so those are really, really big idea, really good for us to have. I'm dealing with the student ID program, all right, and that's being implemented here. So it's a little different at the elementary school. The high schools all have it. Hanson, Henson, and Smallwood are all 3 using it at the middle school level for the student IDs. And here it's a little different because the kids here they get their badge and then they put it back. They don't necessarily wear it all the time, right? But at the high schools and middle schools, they're having it with them all the time. And what they can use it for right now is to buy a lunch and to scan out a library book. That's it. We have some dreams. The one dream is that they can use it when they scan to get on the bus. It would send the parents an email notification that Jimmy got on the bus. All right, and then when you get off, Jimmy gets off the bus here at school, they scan, Jimmy's at school. You know, then what I want to do, what we're trying to look into for next year, at least for the high school, is that the teachers could scan it for attendance. So when the kid walks into the classroom, they would scan their card and they would let them know that Jimmy's in the classroom. So now our helicopter parents, all right, we want to know where the kids are all the time. You guys will know it all. You can also opt out of those notifications too. So those are some of the dreams we have with the program. And the way we look at it is, you know, most of us work in a situation where we have to wear badges. It's part of our life. I mean, college kids have to wear them when they're in college. You know, almost every job that you work in, you have to wear that badge. And so we're trying to create that kind of professional culture here as well. All right. So the other thing we did this summer is this is important for the parents and for our schools, is we codified our main office procedures. You would have a kid that went to school here, and a kid that went to school at Hampton, and a kid that went to Thomas Stone. And if you wanted to sign your kid in or out of school, it was different at all 3 schools. Well, now it's not. It shouldn't be, okay? Because we presented this to all the secretaries and all the principals, and the secretaries loved it. They love now knowing what to do and without having to guess. Because for like 25 years, we've done a lot of these same procedures, but it's never been written down anywhere. So now what we wanted to make it do, because we all have kids. I have 4 kids, and I've had them at 3 different schools. And we had schools that weren't following the procedures. We had one school that wouldn't allow a kid to come in late to school because the parent didn't have their ID. That doesn't make sense, right? The kid goes to school there, let him come into school. So we had to spell that out, and that's what we did here, how to allow the kids into school in the mornings. All right, so looking at the school safety as a whole, we deal with a lot of issues on a complex basis every day. All right, we deal with cybercrime in our schools. We have to guard our emails, our technology. School systems around the country are paying millions of dollars to get their information back. Baltimore County or Baltimore City, one of them, spent an undisclosed amount of money the other month to get their data back because somebody had hacked into it because somebody, a teacher or a staff member, clicked on one of those emails and said, hey, you want $1 million? And I said, did I? And no, and now all of a sudden the whole system is, corrupted. Down in Texas, the same thing that happened down there. It's called ransomware. So we have to guard that, and that's why we have so much tight security on our technology. We have to deal with belligerent parents coming onto our schools, all right, and how to kind of softly approach them. And so we dealt with staff and gave them some training on how to really, your job is not to run down the hall and do a two-leg takedown, on that parent. So, your job is to try to calm them down, all right, and get the administration here, get a resource officer, get their resource officer in. We are focusing on this year too. One of the things that Jason and I talk a lot about and we think about and kind of worry a lot about is the workplace violence. The domestic disputes that come onto our campuses, right? Either be it a mother and father of his child that goes here and they show up for a parent conference and they get into a issue, right? Or staff members that have the same issue. So those are the things that we've talked a lot about how to handle those. And we're going to do a lot more, and I think it's going to be a focus going forward for us as a system. And then, of course, we have to deal with active assailants. That's one of our biggest things. That's probably one of the things that you guys worry about the most, or you think about the most, or you hear the most about. But the reality is we don't have a lot of active assailants in our schools. Nationwide, you hear about active shooters, but they're just shooters. And it's just shooters, that's bad to say. But it's not like they're coming to campus looking to just murder a lot of people. Usually it's targeted violence. Okay, so that's the difference between an active shooter and that targeted violence. Great Mills was a targeted violence. That wasn't an active shooter. Okay, that person came on with a domestic issue, the workplace violence, and took it out on his girlfriend. Right, and it's sad, it's a horrible story. So we have to deal with those things. We luckily have never had to deal with a shooter on our campuses. We've dealt with guns, that's a fact. We deal with weapons, we deal with fights. What did we deal with a lot last year? Here are some of the things we dealt with. These are the major things we deal with. Multiple shelters in places, several lockdowns, a few evacuation, bomb threats, weapons, gang fights, irate parents threatening staff and students, fires, chemical spills and hazmat release, overdoses, utility issues with power, water, and internet, bus crashes, medical emergencies, and weather events. So those are things that we had happen last year. We already have, in a short period of time, probably 7 more we could add on that list of what's already happened this year, that don't fit those criteria. Because we're always dealing with stuff that is just unique. And in years past, we'd always go into a shelter in place, and the parents would get concerned, well, what happened at the school? Well, some of these things may not have been a problem at the school, okay? It may have been something in the community. So we introduced these standard response protocols, and your class or your kid's classroom should have these posters up. Yes, okay. And the staff have little cheat sheets, these things, and their badges so they know what to do. This comes to us from the I Love You Guys Foundation from North Platte, Colorado, where the father of a student who was killed in a gun incident in North Platte came up with these standard response protocols in his way to give back. He thought these made good sense. I know as a principal, when I had to go into the drills of shelter in place and violent storms and high winds, they all sounded the same. I always had to look at my manual. I'm like, if we ever had a real thing, I'm not going to know what to do. I'm not going to have time to read the manual to know what to do. I need to know what to do. So now we come up with standard response protocols, or SRPs, that make sense. And we'll go through these, all right? But this little link down here, the iloveyouguys.org, I point out to all my presentations, it's a good place to go as a parent, as a principal, as a teacher, even as a student, because it's just normal speaking stuff, right? It's not FBI, it's not legal talk. It's just how do you handle a school situation, a violent situation that occurs. And this is created by a dad, all right, who looking to get back from his daughter who was shot. The last thing she texted him when before she was killed was, I love you guys. And that's why it's iloveyouguys.org, okay? So what do? One of them is a lockout. There's a lockout. We're going to secure the perimeter because something's happened in the community. That could have been something happens over at Hanson. It could be Nick's of Clinton Nick's got robbed. Or the bank, BB&T got robbed and the assailant's coming this way, they're on foot. Or there was a shooting in Ryon Woods, right? Okay? So something dangerous is near the school. There's activity in the area, probably not, criminal activity. Probably not civil unrest in our communities. I don't know if that's going to really happen. But this one could happen. The dangerous animal in the playground. All right? That happens a lot. Every time we presented this, we're like, yep, that happens. All right? So what happens? No one comes in or out of the school. All right? This is a lockout. No one comes in or out. So parents, if you're showing up to school, you can't come in. All right? You can't come in at this point. We're locking out. Teachers will bring everyone inside if they're at recess. If they're in the trailers or the mods, the fancy term that we have, right? They have to stay there. We're not going to bring them into the school because the mods are a secured location. If they're outside at gym class, they're going to get inside as quickly as they can. Teachers lock all outside doors, which all our doors are already locked, so it's not a problem. Teachers will just kind of, increase situational awareness, take a look outside. We tell teachers, don't stand at the window and just gawk out the window and see what's happening. Okay. It'll be okay, all right? Take attendance, note the time, and business as usual. On a lockout, you still have normal classes. So if you get a notification that JP Ryan was in a lockout today, is there a need for you to freak out? Nothing happened dangerous in the school. It had nothing to do with the school, okay? So what about class changes? Do we change the classes in a lockout? You could if you didn't have the mods. Yeah, because if the kids are outside in the trailers and they got to come in, or their specials are outside, they can't go outside. But if you had a school that totally was inside, yeah, you can change classes. Remember, the danger's outside, right? We're okay. All right, lockdown. This is different now. Lockdown is locks, lights, and out of sight. This is, we're locking everything up. We're going to get a little more secure because now the danger is in the building. The danger is now inside our halls, inside our walls. You have, an outsider suffering from mental illness probably came in and ran past the front office secretary and is going down the halls. All right, it could happen. You have that angry parent who wants to go see that first grade teacher because their kid turned in that project. Okay, and so we have to go now into a lockout. So this is when the principal gets on and says we are now entering into a lockdown. Okay, we're entering into a lockdown. And if I say lockout, I say them so quickly sometimes, so pardon me. We're now talking about lockdown. All right. We lock everything up. We turn out the lights. We get out of sight. We drop our blinds. We used to slide these cards into our doors to let the police know, hey, I need help in here. It's a red card, or we're all good. It's a green card. We're not doing that anymore. Why? Yeah, we don't want the angry parent or shooter or whatever to know where people are. So no, we're not doing that anymore. We maintain silence. We take attendance, note the time of day. Difference between a lockout and a lockdown. Where's the lockout? What's the problem in a lockout? Outside. All right. Pretty simple. All right. So there was an issue at Henson. There was an issue at Henson, a 911 call of a shooter in the school, which there wasn't, but they didn't know. So Henson went into a lockdown. I got to slow myself down. I always get confused. JP Ryan? Yeah. No, this is JP. JC Parks. Okay. What did JC Parks go into? Lockout. The problem was outside the building, but there wasn't one. But the problem would have been outside the building. Does that make sense? Okay. Evacuate. What's an evacuation? We've done it since 1958. And when does everyone leave the building? What type of drill is an evacuation drill? Fire drill? Does everyone freak out on the fire drill? I always say I've been in school for K through 12. I went to college, a little more than 4 years, but I went to college, and then I've taught for 25 years. I've never had a fire in the building that I've been at, right? And yet we do them every month, every year, all the time. No one freaks out at a fire drill because we know it's just normal. So that's why we try to build a lot of our drills around the fire drill, the evacuation drill. In evacuation, teachers are going to, at evacuation, you're going to take attendance once you get on out. And we're telling the teachers now to go away from the building as far as you can. They're grabbing that little green bag that has the trauma kit in and their class rosters and their emergency contacts, and they're getting outside the building. All right, bring their cell phone, probably smaller than that one. And again, at the rally points, if it's a true rally point, you know, there's a shooter in the building or there's a bomb threat or whatever. All right, not that we don't evacuate for bomb threats anymore. All right, unless we really know it's a credible bomb threat. All right, so we're not leaving the buildings, but we would take attendance there. Shelters, we do these because for some reason tornadoes happen in Southern Maryland. They seem to really, we're like coming into like a hot spot. Earthquake, they happen too, you know, when your lawn chair fell over, you know, the bad earthquake we had here a couple years ago. Where's the safest place if there's an earthquake, inside or outside?
Inside.
No, not inside.
Outside.
Why would you want to stay here with the ceiling and stuff falling on me?
Yeah.
Inside, but if you're inside, get under a table, right? But the reality too is when the earthquakes happen, they happen so quickly. It's not like it happens for a whole minute or two. You can just like, I gotta get out of here. They usually happen for about a 5-10 second period, but that's enough to make roofs fall in. Okay? So the safest place is outside, and if you're inside, get under something. Right? That's just a fact. Hazmats and shelters, we're going to shut the windows and we're going to shut the doors. Schools, we have the capability to shut down our air handlers, so we're not going to suck in the bad air from outside into the building. But if the hazmat releases inside the building, are we staying in the building?
No.
Then we're evacuating, right? Always listen for instructions during these. The shelters are always going to be PA led, all right? Principal, vice principal, secretary is going to get on the phone, on the horn and say, we are going into a tornado drill, please take shelter, all right? Hold, this is the most common one that will probably be used. When I was the principal at Thomas Stone and Westlake, we used holds before we knew what to call them. We just said we're holding classes. Why? It's dismissal time, and the buses that are parked out front, one of them catches on fire. All right? It overheats and catches on fire. Can we dismiss the class? Can we dismiss school?
No.
No chance. So we're going to hold the classes until we can get that bus under control. All right? At the high schools, we have a lot of fights that seem to happen, like right at 2:10. Right? And they're in our main hallways, and we can't dismiss our classes into a fight scene. So we hold our classes. All right? That's just the normal thing that we do. The halls need to be kept clear. Remain in the classroom until an all clear is given. And teachers will close and lock the classroom doors. And teachers, it's just business as usual. It's like an extra long class period, is all a hold is. And what about class changes? In a hold, do we change classes?
No.
Never, no, because we're holding class with something that's going on in the school. All right? So a lot of these will be, if you look at your sheet, a lot of these are going to be PA led. And we're telling the staff that if we actually had an active shooter in the school, there's probably not going to be PA directions given to the staff. Right? Because normally the active shooter is going to come in the front at the main entrance, and that's where it's going to start. They're not going to get in on the PA and say, we have a shooter in the building. It's just not going to happen. We're not going to have time. We're going to be reacting to it, and that's why we also have the policy of run, hide, and fight. All the staff know to run, hide, or fight. And they've also discussed that. We told them to discuss this with their students. How do you handle a difficult situation? You know, it's a run, hide, or fight. And in this community, we also say to the kids, well, at least at the middle school, we say, if you can run home, go home. If we had a bad situation like that, run to your parents' house, but make sure you call your parents' house if they're not there. Let them know. Not call your parents' house, but call your parents, let them know where you are. Because I would rather tell you, we know Jimmy's not at the school. I don't know where he is, but I know he's not in the cafeteria where the other 7 kids are lying. Right? Would you rather hear that? No. So, you know, that's what we're saying now. If in a community school like this, if you can run home to safety, run home to safety. All right? The last thing that I wanted to cover as well, and then take some questions, is the bullying harassment. And I heard at the beginning a little intro about the bullying harassment. I wanted to point out, so this is the logo that's on our website, the CCPS website, about the, if you see something, say something. And if you click it, it'll take you to where you need to go. And there's also phone numbers there for which you need to call. So how to report bullying harassment? The schools all have this paper copy of a we call it shorthand BHI, bullying, harassment, intimidation
It's the
report.
last page of your code of conduct.
And it's on the, yes, thank you. It's the last page of the code of conduct. It's also at the school, but it's also on a CCPS website. You can print it out at home if you want it. I don't know why you would, all right, because just last week, because again, I have kids in school, my daughter was having some issues, and this is the third offense that came up with the same boys. So I went and I clicked here, and you fill out the same paper form, but you do it online. And I did it all from my phone. Okay? So you can fill out the bullying harassment form on your phone. It's not super user-friendly from your phone because it kind of has a little glitch. The other thing I would say is when you hit submit, you don't know that it's submitted right away. And then you hit submit again, now you submitted 2 forms for the same incident. So my job, I go in and I'll delete one of those forms that you reported. But once you report, the school will begin the investigation. The nice thing about if you submit it online, she gets an email, and she gets an email, or should, or will if she's not. We have some glitches with that too because some people change schools, so they're not all getting it. But so they both get an email, and that they have to then start the investigation on. And what I've told them is to send an email back to you. We received your form. We will begin our investigation. They take the form that's under a new status and they change it to pending because now it's an investigation. But here's where parents get upset. What's going on with my case? I want to know. What happened? It takes time. Okay? Here's what always happens, especially at the high school level. The victim either isn't in school or the kid who was the harasser isn't in school the next couple. And you play this tag game back and forth of trying to catch up with the kids when they're all both at school at the same time, or the witnesses that were there that maybe witnessed it or didn't witness it. Bullying harassment takes time. But the thing I've always told parents when I was a principal, submit it if you think it's harassment and it's bullying behavior. Just submit it. And because you know there's been bullying, harassment, and a conflict. You know that, right? There's a difference. And the thing I always say is, bullying harassment becomes a paper trail where the pen is mightier than the sword. You know? And if you don't submit the form, the bullier just keeps getting stronger. But if you submit the form, you knock them down a little bit. You submit another form, finally you're on top of, I say him, it could be her, because we get a lot of that too. All right? But you have to submit it to make sure that you're able to follow up. And the one thing that we always say is that we get the perception in the county that the school system doesn't take bullying harassment seriously. We do. It's just that sometimes parents get so fed up with how slow it takes, they don't want to do the forms. But I can tell you, we've had kids removed from schools for repeated bullying and harassment. I can tell you that's a fact.
Founded.
Founded.
If it's founded.
Oh, that's, thank you.
Based on the investigation. There has to be an investigation with
Yes.
witness statements, and it has to be founded.
And then the other thing too is that you need to understand that we're not just investigating and then saying, okay, well that didn't happen and we move along. There's the 2-week follow-up, there's a 6-week investigation follow-up as well. So really it takes, from the time you file the bullying harassment, it takes 6 whole weeks before we actually close it down. Okay? And in that time period there could be a whole nother flare-up. Alright, so it is a process that goes on. So we talked about interviewing. We're going to contact the parents. We're going to implement interventions if needed. And we talked about 2 to 6 weeks. And then they will finally submit the forms to me, and I collect the data, and I submit it to the state. So they now have all the data on our bullying and harassment that goes on in the county. Okay? So, any questions? Sir?
Can I just go back to the volunteering process?
Yeah.
That does not work on smartphones, correct? That has to be done on a computer?
Yes.
Is that-
Yes.
And then in terms of, for parents' knowledge, that has to be done on a year-to-year basis?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. I'm sorry, I was just checking my time, and Jason wanted to make sure, hey, find out how long this thing takes, because we go to this other school, so just see my time. So, yes, you have to do it every year. So that now, staff members don't have to get cleared every year because we have our badges, right? So if you have kids that go to school at another school, you're clear to go on that volunteer trip. with the kid because you've been cleared numerous ways through the central office. All right.
I have a question
Yes,
before we
ma'am.
turn over to Ms. Rodriguez. Does any parent know what safety response we had a couple of weeks ago? I sent an email up, follow up about it. We had one. Anyone know? Guess, you wanna guess?
I think I was here, but was it a lockdown? No?
Close.
It was a
The
hold.
blinds-
We had
'cause
a
the
hold.
blinds went down.
We had a
Yeah,
hold.
I
We
was
had a
like-
hold. Yeah.
Okay.
And the blinds went down because we had a minor medical emergency that we had to handle. We didn't want everyone to see who was being transported out.
Okay.
Yeah, but I had some scholars who were upset because they saw the blinds go down and they didn't know what was going on.
I was
So I
worried.
wanted to send an email to let you all know this is what happened, this is how we handled it, so that if you needed to have the conversation, you could have it. But we tried to put them at ease because no one going out in the stretcher wants their friends to see them going out. So we had to close but when they saw the blinds closed, they was like, what's happening? What's going on? I was like, relax.
You know, one of the things that we're dealing with our office, so we work with our office, we work with the communications office, we work with Dr. Hill and the administration office, right? And so when things happen, we go like a command central, and we want to try to push information out as quickly as we can, but we don't want to push out incorrect information, right? Because then that just creates more stress. So oftentimes we're kind of paralyzed by our own fear of sending out the wrong information. So if something bad happens, you know you're going to get the information out there, all right? And the reality is if you're at work in DC and something bad happens at JP Ryan, what good are you going to do driving down, Indian Head Speedway trying to get here, because something bad happened at JP Ryan? It'll get taken care of, Things will be solved. We have a lot of first responders. If something happened, it's going to be taken care of. Trust us. All right? Yes?
Going back to that bullying and harassment scenario, so you're saying fill out the paperwork, it gets sent in, then you get an email saying like we've gotten your.
So if you fill out the paper version, you probably may not get an email that it's being investigated.
Right, but you said you
We get an email to
requested
know
it.
that you've clicked submitted.
Yes.
Right.
And then we will contact you and say we've received your form. I think our VPs prefer calls versus email.
We do both.
Both.
So if you did paper and it's handed to us, you get a phone call. This is Vice Principal Barnett. I'm calling to let you know that I received your form and now I'm investigating.
Is that the only communication between that 6-week period? Because I'm sure as a parent, like you're gonna be like, what's going on, like how.
Yeah,
So-
we have a sheet that we have to fill out. Every time I talk to a scholar in this building, be it good or bad, I call and say, hey, this is Vice Principal Barnett. I had your scholar in the office for, like today, it was just a Cardinal Cash or whatever. So anytime I interact with a kid, because they're going to be like, I was in the Vice Principal's office, you're going to be like, for what? I call and let you know. So you hear from me a lot. If I have a scholar, I'm calling and I'm letting you know. Good, bad, you hear from me. So we let you know. Now during the process, I may have to call and ask you if there, what information do you have? Or I was talking with the scholar today and I got this information. So we will, it may be a time like doing that 4-week part where I'll just say I was doing a check-in on the student to see how it's going, and it may just be that, but it's constant communication on our part.
I think in the past too, so this is my first year doing it, and at the beginning of the year, it was like the first week of August, I talked to every vice principal and principal, and this is how we're handling the bullying. And a lot of them were relieved. They didn't know the process necessarily as well as in the past. So I think that communication should be it should be clearer this year, okay? You're not gonna get a phone call every other week about, hey, this is what's going on, but you will get a phone call. You may end up having to come in for a conference or a meeting, and then at the end, it'll just kind of be resolved. And you can always send an email to, hey, about 6 weeks ago I sent something, I haven't heard anything back. And I always tell the parents, or you haven't heard anything recently. I shouldn't say you haven't heard anything back.
Well, the other thing is, rest assured, any report that we get, you may not know that there's actual visible follow-up, but we're more vigilant in the environments like the cafeteria, at the gym, when they're moving through the hallways and watching. And sometimes as a parent, you'll hear what your child says, but we see something different in school. And so we're like, well, they don't, we're asking, they're coming home telling you this, but this is what we're seeing. So there is some more vigilance to provide support. Because as a mom, I would want to know the same thing. I filled out this paper, what's happening? But know that anytime we get any type of report, we're there and we're on it. You know, and so, and providing that support and providing that which adults are in the room, just making sure you're keeping on what's happening between those two scholars. So we do have to wrap it up. I'm gonna ask if we have any more we can put on the parking lot. I don't know if Ms. Rosa made the parking lot with post-it notes. If you have any additional questions, Mr. Miser,
No.
I'm open to email. I respond like that.
I'm
Okay.
ML Miser, so
Yeah.
our emails are different. Mine has my middle initial in, so it's ML Miser, and the Germans didn't know how to spell when it came to the country, so it's MEI. Instead of I before E, they messed it up. So it's MEISER. Also, I want to point out that we have the Twitter page, and I'm even a grammar now. We put stuff up on Instagram. All right, so we're trying to get hip and in with the kids. All right, so
It's a grammar. I didn't know it's called grammar.
well, that's what I've been called. So if you have anything, let me know. I want to thank you guys for your time, and I know you have a lot more to go, so I'll be quiet and get off the floor.
Thank you so much. So now we're going to turn it over to Ms. Rodriguez, who's going to talk about our gifted learning presentation.
Yes.
All right. And while she's pulling that up, I just want to say that safety is something that I'm always thinking about. So that's why there are certain protocols in place, like our early dismissal protocol. Imagine if we had 20 parents coming to pick up kids right at dismissal time, and I had to call a lockdown. Doors are opening and closing. You know what I mean? So that's why I say we have a cutoff time, so I can make sure my 670 babies get home. So that's why we have certain protocols in place, because I think about it from the minute the day starts to the moment the day ends. So, Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you. I'll make this a little bit quick, but I want to make sure I give you guys information. So I'm Mrs. Rodriguez. My position here is a learning resource teacher, and that means that I work and coordinate the gifted curriculum for K through 5, and then I'm also in charge of the testing. So that's the not so fun part of the job. The gifted part is the most fun. Some of my responsibilities though is to coordinate all the testing. I support and implement the identify gifted in 3 through 5, but then we have enrichment for K through 2. And so I also work to coordinate with the teachers and the student groups with that curriculum. I help support the high ability math scholars in 2nd through 3rd. I work with the teachers. I work with our scholars and our learners, and I oversee the whole identification process, which is what I'm going to focus on with you guys tonight. And then I'm also here for parents and teachers with questions. So part of the basis or the founding of Charles County's mission on gifted is based on Maryland law. It's called the Annotated Code. Having outstanding talent and performing or showing the potential for performing at remarkably high levels of accomplishment when compared to other students. So for Charles County, we look for a 2-year difference in where you should be and where you are. So we're focusing on a 2-year difference. Charles County's mission is to provide all school-age children to receive an academically challenging quality education that builds character, equips for leadership. This is our mission. This is the county's mission. And on top of that, for our gifted learners, we believe that students who perform or show the potential for performing at high levels, there's that same wording, and accomplishments should have access to high quality gifted education. So we actually have a separate curriculum for our gifted learners. It's in addition to the regular classroom curriculum, they get a little bit harder, challenging curriculum. So some of the difference between a good scholar and a gifted scholar: good scholars, they know the answer. They enjoy school, they get what they're being taught, they can copy things accurately, they can do their work accurately, they have great ideas, they might have great vocabulary. They enjoy being in this environment, learning environment. They can absorb information, and they can achieve mastery of a skill in 3 to 8 tries. A gifted scholar or a gifted learner, they ask the questions. They're not just taking the answer, they're not just giving you the answer. They're challenging the answer, or they're challenging you to dive deeper into that concept or that curriculum. They enjoy learning as well. They draw inferences. That means they can make connections between the lines. So it's not just the black and white on the page of what those stories telling them or what the text is telling them. They can make connections to their life or to some other event that they've read about. They create new designs, they have unexpected ideas. These are the kids, for teachers, they'll say something and you're standing there like, wow, yeah, never thought of it like that. That's your gifted learner. They prefer adults because the conversation is richer for them. They can manipulate information and they can achieve mastery with one try, maybe two. Here's some more characteristics of gifted scholars. They exceed our grade level expectations. Doesn't mean the work is easy, but you can tell that they can master it quickly and they can move on through it quickly. They learn new material quickly. They remembers forever what they've learned. So they could have learned something 3 years ago and they can recall that. They can handle concepts that are usually too complex for their peers. They have strong interest in different topics, and they could be more mature topics than their peers. And they have exceptional reasoning ability, a sense of justice, early moral concerns, and intellectual curiosity. They are very empathetic, and they want kind of the equality for all concept. So one of our main identifiers for gifted learners is the COGAT, which is a cognitive abilities test. We give this blanket to all second graders in Charles County, and then those students in grades 3 through 5 that are either new to the county, new to the state, have never been tested for whatever reason, have kind of fallen between the cracks, we give them this COGAT testing as well. It measures general and developed reasoning ability, so it's not your standard like pre-test. It's not asking questions, reading passages. It's looking at a sequence of words or a series of words. How do these words connect? It gives them shapes. How do these shapes go together if I move them like this? It's more visual and logical. General reasoning abilities reflect the overall efficiency of the cognitive process, the thinking process, and strategies that enable students to learn new tasks and solve problems. It's very much a problem-solving type test. It looks for developed reasoning abilities, and these abilities that are tested kind of lend themselves to success in school. There's a quantitative test, a verbal test, and a nonverbal test. And so this test happens in 2 sections. There's a screener that everybody takes, and if they qualify and score well on the screener, then we take them on to the completer, and the completer kind of digs a little bit deeper into their word recognition, their nonverbal, and their logical thinking. So it is a 2-step process. We start it in November and we finish it in December. Parents and teachers can nominate students. I do have with me the nomination forms for those of you that might feel this fits your child. You complete the nomination form, parent or teacher. They turn it into me. I make sure that that student hasn't been tested recently. We like for there to at least be 1 year in between tests. So if they tested in 2nd grade, didn't qualify, and they're now in 3rd grade, we wouldn't retest them again until 4th grade. We like a year of observation in between the years of testing. Not much is going to change between the time in October of 2nd grade and the October of 3rd grade. So we want that year of growth for them. The process, so we have a committee that will meet once all the testing is complete. We review pre-test scores. We will review PARCC scores if we have PARCC scores. We will review student work from the teacher. If it's one of those, maybe not, I'll go in and observe the student to get a better feel for how they work. I might even sit down and have a conversation with them to see how they feel about school, kind of a little interest survey with them. Once we have all that data, we sit down as a committee and meet. So it's myself, our other IRT members, math and reading. Many times our guidance counselor will join us. Sometimes one of our vice principals will join us, or our principal if they're available. And we sit down and we talk about the child. We talk about how they learn. We talk about their scores. And we ask the teacher, what do you think? Will they be successful? The goal is not to identify them and then have them struggle and have them feel like they can't keep up. The goal is to identify those who can handle it and who need that challenge and will be successful with that challenge. Part of the process is a parent and teacher observation checklist. So that comes home, you fill it out, and it's returned, and we add that to all of our data. There's a lot of data that goes into these. They can be placed and gifted for reading, for math, or for both. Just depends on their strengths. Sometimes there's no service given, like they're not tagged as gifted, but we place them with the accelerated class or the higher learners in the class. That way they're with their peers that are learning the same, and they're still getting the services, they just don't have the title of gifted. Sometimes there's no services. You know, they might have scored well on the test, all their other indicators are there, but it's just not for them. You know, the teacher doesn't feel like they'll be successful, and we don't want to put that stress on the child. And the identification that happens this year will be for next school year. It will take effect next school year. Some of the gifted services that we have in reading and math, students are grouped by clusters. Currently I'm working with a 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and 5th grade group. The 4th grade teacher is working with her group in her classroom. They're instructed in the small group, so when their classroom is doing guided reading rotations, I have them as my guided reading group. That's where the gifted reading curriculum is implemented. For math, 3rd grade students have a program called Mentoring Mathematical Minds. It's a challenging curriculum, so it helps them think kind of outside the box and a little bit more logically, to see things a little bit differently and to work through a problem. And we're in the process of starting that first unit in Mathematical Minds. 4th grade students receive differentiated lessons that provide enrichment based on the current skill. Whatever standard they're working on in class, there are accelerated or enrichment activities built into the curriculum, and then 5th grade has the accelerated math class. What to expect from the program? It's increased rigor. That means the curriculum is harder. We're pushing them more. We want to see more out of them. We want to see them writing above what's expected on grade level. We want to hear the vocabulary and hear the discussion. A lot of what goes on in my reading groups is discussion. We talk about the book. It's not a lot of worksheets. It's a lot of journal writing, because we're talking about the book or we're talking about the text. We're trying to make connections with the kids and the text. We want them reading independently to prepare for other assignments. We do a lot of critical thinking. We do a lot of analyzing, and we work a lot with inferences and connecting the dots. But the meat of it is discussion. We share questions, we answer questions, we use the details from the text to answer the different questions, and then we put that in writing. So it's making all those connections. If your child is in one of these accelerated groups that I pull, you could expect some homework occasionally. There is a process and there's an order to our groups and what we do. So sometimes there might be homework, but the goal is not to add to their workload. So what I do with them takes the place of what they would have done with their teacher's rotation. It's not in addition to, because that's an added pressure that they don't earn or they don't need. They should be reading text independently at home and here at school. Good struggle, not frustration struggle, but we talked about productive struggle today in one of our meetings. Productive struggle is where they learn. It's where they make those connections. Might not be pretty, but it's where they make those connections. They need to be taking risks for learning and investigating. It's okay for them to make mistakes. They need to make mistakes. Talk about them. What could you have done different? Where could we change to make this work better? And then for any students that I pull and I work with, their grades for math and reading will reflect work that's above the grade level standard, because they're working, say they're in 3rd grade and I pull them in my gifted reading group or my accelerated reading group. They're actually working on 4th grade standards. So their grades will reflect that. The nomination forms, I'll have them with me if you feel that you want your child to go through this process and you think that they have some of these characteristics, you're more than welcome to fill out the form. You can either fill it out tonight and leave it with me, or you can send it back into your child's teacher by Friday. And then, like I said, I'll check the records to make sure they weren't tested last year and see where they fall. And then I'll contact you and let you know a little bit more of the process. Excuse me. My information, my email address, and then obviously through the school phone. They can connect you to me as well. Again, this process will start 1st of November. We're gathering the students' names now from teachers and from synergy of kids who don't have scores. And then from there, we create our testing list. And then I'll have additional resources that you can pick up on your way out. I have information on the process, so it just kind of sums up the whole screening process. I will have a handout for the difference between bright and gifted, and then I have a parent brochure that gives like parenting gifted children, tips for high ability students, things you can do at home, things you can do in the community, and even some websites with some gifted type information. Questions? I know that's kind of quick, but.
So if you don't accept them or you do, will you lay out like where they fell short and like saying, well, yeah, they were advanced, but.
Absolutely. So part of the COGAT testing, we get reports. And every parent, every child that takes a test will bring home a report. It's not immediate. We have kind of like a timeline that we follow. So mid-February, the county, we mail out the report, whether they went through the whole test or if they just took the first part of the test. You always get a report, and that report explains where they fall. And then if we do proceed like through both parts of the test, you get a letter that states, we place them here based on scores, or we feel it's best that we just observe them for a year and then maybe re-screen.
They can be advanced in one and not the other.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. They could be
So you're not
identified.
expecting both.
No, absolutely not. Most of our students are only identified in one, either reading or math. There are very few of ours here that are identified in both. Yeah. Any other questions?
I just have a sheet.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Thank you so much. So I know we're running over, but there are 2 more items we have to cover. I think now I did not introduce our PTO board, so we have Ms. Johnson, our treasurer, who's going to cover the budget. Last month's budget.
Yep. So between July and October, we've earned $367.72 for memberships. From the IC fundraiser that we did on back to school night, we earned $60. And the Spirit Night at Chuck E. Cheese, which was one of our highest earned Spirit Nights, I think ever, was it ever? Was $872.84. So from this, we took $40.97 for the custodian, custodian week? Custodian week? Yep, custodian appreciation week. So right now our total net income is $1,259.59.
Vita is currently stepped out. Let me go ahead and mention her. So the next is our minutes approval. Everybody has this paper right here? Alright, and members have their green and red cards. So the green and red cards are basically for voting, for saying yes you agree, red you do not agree. Rojo y verde dice sí o dice no. ¿Está bien? Yes. Aquí.
me go ahead and give a brief explanation. So we had the principal's welcome. We went over our new social media, which is with our Facebook page, and went over the Twitter. We went over our restorative practice with Ms. Barnett, and went over the PTO and volunteer rule procedures, goals and missions. Parent engagement with Ms. Bryant. We went over Men Make a Difference with Ms. Bryant. We went over the cardinal gear, which we're actually going to have to move to next meeting because there's no time during this meeting. We decided we were not going to be able to have time for it that we did not have time for it last meeting. We were not able to come to a decision, so now we're moving it to next one. For fundraising, we had spirit nights every month. So for instance, right now we have scheduled as Chuck E. Cheese, Chipotle, IHOP. So the next one's Chipotle this month on Monday, don't forget. And we have IHOP on November 12th. Then we spoke about our Chuck E. Cheese night, which was actually Chuck E. Cheese Back to School Bash. We talked about our Fall Fun Night and agreed that that was something good to do. Turkey Raffle Bingo Night, agreed. Holiday Shop, we did not completely come to an agreement, so it's something we're going to talk about today. Valentine Shop, Readathon, Box Top Apps, we spoke about them, but did not really go into detail. Events at a glance, bathroom affirmations, we did agree on that, and we're actually starting to get the ball rolling. Davita's heading the committee for that, so if anybody has any questions or concerns or would like to assist, please contact Miss as usual, okay? We also spoke about other ideas and proposed a schedule for the upcoming year. And we had a volunteer sign up right here, but now we have some more volunteer sign ups if anybody wants to take a look. Or realize that they have time for things now, so we have more right here. And we had the board member elections and decided Courtney Millhouse is going to be the vice principal and Jessica Johnson was going to be the treasurer. We decided about the parent advisory meetings representatives. Latoya Davis is going to be going next week, and Shireen Mayo and Latoya Davis are going to be going in January as well as in April. Does anybody have any objections? Green for good and red for bad. All right, so motion approved. Okay. So next on our list, Chuck E. Cheese night was a great success. So we got $874 from that fundraiser. Woohoo!
Yes.
I think the biggest thing about that was
That was good.
Thanks. I think the biggest thing about that was all of the parents and the students and the teachers all coming together. Hell, there was even a bunch of games like Mr. Brooks was all up against the students about who's going to beat them in this. That was pretty cool. So, and that's the reason why I liked it the most. They're actually even begging us to come back because we had such a good turnout.
Well, I told them they need to have more staff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did talk to the manager. We had you didn't think we were all coming, but we're here. So next time we come, I need you all to be fully staffed. And Chucky needs to come out and say hello. Yep.
Okay. Custodian Day was also a success. The reason why I say that is we had a lot of parent involvement for that. And I sent out a sign-up genius, and we had several donations. Something I need to pass out right now. Courtney Millhouse, thank you for your donation. Oh, you Is Carla Johnson here? No. Gotta find her. Give this to Carla Johnson. Andy? Thank you for your donation.
And our building service workers deal with a lot, so the fact that they really felt special, so we do thank you for that. Very appreciated.
Davina Usual, thank you for your donation.
Thank you.
Lisa Bradford, thank you for your donation.
I had a building service worker
me, I was like, you're gonna make me cry.
And honestly, that was the biggest thing is everybody, all those building service workers were so touched by what we were doing and that we kept it up throughout the week. And it didn't even take much. It was just a couple of things here and there, but it meant a lot. So, which brought me on to the last bit. Parent involvement, I believe, is up, and I want to keep it up. So, let's all work together. Upcoming events, we have the Fall Fun Reading Night on Friday. Originally, we were hoping for a Fall Fun Movie Night. Unfortunately, it costs $400 for
Movie license.
movie licenses. So we were unable, yeah.
Can't just show a movie and everybody come have popcorn. It's against the law. So we have to have a license.
So we had to nix that. So we are going along with the Scholastic Fair, which is also on Friday at between 5 and 7, and we're having a little reading camp out to go with them. We're going to go over into the cafeteria, and if anybody wants to bring tents, sleeping bags, blankets, flashlights, it'd be a nice, fun thing to do. But I do need to get this voted on. We do need to purchase concessions, and it will be coming out of PTO budget, but we are going to be selling those concessions, so we're hopefully getting our money right back. Does anybody, is this a motion to approve?
Is there a budget? Or a goal, at least a
I would think staying under $20. No, you don't think it's gonna be?
Maybe 50.
50?
Yeah.
I think 50 would
50
be
is
better.
okay.
Okay. Everybody agree with 50?
Oh.
Okay. All right. So next on ours, I was just mentioning Spirit Night again, which is next Monday. Don't forget about Chipotle.
And so is there a certain window of time, or is it anywhere between
Oh yes,
the
sorry.
Mhm.
Between 5 and 9.
5 and 9?
And you have
Five-
to have the flyer for that, right?
You don't specifically have to have the flyer, but you do have to mention that you're with JP Ryan Elementary and that you are part, that is for the fundraiser.
Okay.
Otherwise, the money will not go to us, and unfortunately, we're not allowed to stand out front of there or mention that we are part of the PTO or hand out flyers. So, but they do give 33% of the proceeds towards our school. Next, we have our affirmations budget. I just wanted to verify one more time. We agreed last time we were going to do affirmations, but we have come to more of a conclusion. We're thinking about 300. Does everybody agree? 300 would be an okay amount for the affirmations for the bathrooms? Perfect. Motion has been approved.
I do have one more question
Okay.
with that. So are we planning to do paint or vinyl? Is the goal on an annual basis or every school year that we change these?
Which one
stones?
would be able to be changed?
Vinyl.
So the vinyl would probably be changed.
Okay. I mean, cause we could do paint, but then
You just
that
have to
means
paint over
Yeah,
it.
you would
Yeah.
just have to paint over it on an
But
annual basis.
vinyl's more expensive, isn't it?
Vinyl is more expensive,
Yeah,
so
but
that's
think
why I
of
wanted
that
to ask
having
the
to change it
question.
every year and be more expensive.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
So we have someone who's willing to freehand paint.
Say what?
Yeah, we have a couple.
She was
no,
saying
I
we want our
Point.
bathrooms to look like North
Point.
Point.
North.
Why y'all putting? Yeah, I worked. I was like, who you with?
Who did it, the children or staff?
Both art classes and some staff.
Okay. So we can move forward.
With
We
paint.
can say paint.
Paint, and then just next year just paint if
Yeah.
we need to change. Yep.
Got it.
All right, so we're moving forward with paint for the affirmations, budget of 300.
Got it.
Got it. Okay. Next is Bus Driver Appreciation Week, which is actually next week. It's between August 21st till August 25th.
October.
October.
That's what I meant to say. October
There's a lot of
21st
things
to
going on.
October
Book
25th.
fairs.
Sorry. We wanted to create a budget. I was thinking maximum of about $15 because all we have to do is small things like piece of candy, water bottle the next day, something small. Does anybody have any objections that they would like to voice out?
Is the 15 budget per person or overall?
For the overall.
You think a water bottle would be able to go into a $15 budget?
No. Water bottles like those.
Oh, okay.
And I also have, we're doing a water campaign for the staff, so I also have water cups that they could use. It says, "What are you waiting for?" So they can, it's like a hydration campaign. They do come in and fill up for water.
We've done it too, where you take like one of those little packets and you tie it with like a ribbon around just like a regular water bottle, and so they can have like flavored water.
Oh, that's a good idea.
It's not very expensive at all. You just buy a couple boxes and have like tons of those little packets and just tie them on.
Yeah. Just, let me look.
Yeah.
15.
I think maybe we can increase it to at least the 40 that we did for the custodians.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So does everybody agree with the budget being $40 for Bus Appreciation Week? Perfect. So the motion has been approved for $40 being the budget. All right. Holiday shop. Last time we had a little bit of a discussion about this. For the holiday shop, what we've come to a conclusion of is we're thinking of grabbing the students with the money and just taking them here rather than grabbing the whole class. We're wondering, would you like to take over for this one?
Sure. I'm not gonna stand you fancy. So what we decided for, or what we thought would be a good idea for the holiday shop is, pretty much in the past, as in last year, we had a lot of kids come to the holiday shop. They didn't have money, or they didn't have enough money, and certain things happened. Some people took nice little discounts with them. And so the goal is this year we don't want kids to be disappointed. And so the holiday shop envelopes go home with the kids in advance. The parents provide the monies that the kids are to use at the holiday shop. And the goal is during recess time for that particular class, we will get volunteers to go get the students that have money, take them to the holiday shop while the other kids are out at recess. So you have that separation so kids aren't feeling left out. The goal is we will do that for each of the kids' recess time, for each of the grade levels. The kids who have the monies can purchase what they need. The ones who don't, we will have a holiday craft night during that week. So those kids, if they would like, and their families can come and create crafts for free and take those as gifts with them.
We also discussed during having volunteer donations, and like an addendum to the whatever you provide for your child, so that if you want to provide, additional money for families that are less, have less means, then you can do that as well.
So what are we doing?
We need to verify that this is a go.
Got
Does
it.
everybody agree with the holiday shop with these parameters?
Yes,
Question.
but I don't understand what you mean by, so are we donating the money, like a allotment of money, and how
Like
do
if
you
you wanna give
determine
extra
So
which
if
family
you
gets
want to
our
give
money?
like
We
an
don't.
extra dollar or
Yeah.
whatever you want to give,
Right.
put that in like a separate
But how would you
envelope.
determine which child that needs it gets it, or?
I think that idea, we was doing the donations when we were still bringing all of the kids in.
Okay.
I think that may have been, we had so many ideas for
I know.
grants.
Yes.
That's what I'm just
But
trying
I
to-
think that may have been one of the options that we had if we still brought the kids in,
Entire
and
group.
you had a kid who really wanted something but didn't have any money.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna send you over to the $2 side, and we're gonna get you, you can walk out with a ball or something.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that option may be off the table.
Okay.
All right, with the parameters set, does everybody agree with the holiday shop? Perfect. Okay, also, something that got added on is with our holiday craft night, the free night that's gonna be in between the holiday shop and the, where people can come and make crafts for their families. We also wanted to add a clothing closet. So we're hoping to ask for donations, starting mid-November for any lately used clothing, new socks and underwear, things that people can bring in for people who are less fortunate. And then on holiday craft night, anybody can come in and grab a clothing item for their child that fits them now. Any thoughts or questions?
Can you take it now? So many people donate to my kids their bins. Like, can I bring it in?
Yes.
Yes.
I have bins. People were good to me. I want to pass it on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then also, if you have any sort of extra bins around your house, because we're gonna need
We're gonna need
something
another
to store.
storage bin.
And we're talking about, also toys, not just clothes and shoes. We're talking about the holidays where children are not going to be so thrilled about clothes and shoes. Well, some might be, but some won't want toys and things like that. Learning things, anything.
The only thing that we do say is if you bring undergarments, that the undergarments are new.
No, of course.
Because
Yeah.
I've seen.
No, please bring new undergarments.
Yeah, no lightly used undergarments. It has to be new underwear, new socks, but everything else can
They need to
lightly
be in a
used.
sealed package.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Coat tank tops. Yes, brand new.
Okay. All right, so does everybody agree with the clothing closet for the holiday craft night? All right, it looks like that's all that's on our agenda. Meeting is officially adjourned.
Thank you.
Boom, boom.
I'll take
Anybody
your
have any
paper
questions
back.
or?
So she wanted to bring it early. So are you serious about her
I,
being able to bring it
she
early?
had
Yeah, I'm
to.
serious.
I'm
Yeah.
okay.